Dillian the Body Snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
So normally when I see a headline on Google or that kind of thing, I'll just read through the article, come to my own thoughts. Shall I make a video on it, yes or no? And if I do, I'll just do it, upload it, and that's what you guys get. But of course, with this one, with the headline that Alexander Povetkin not going to be ready for the yet again rescheduled January the 30th rematch with Dillian Whyte, I thought, well, there's no point in me just making a video on it. I'll just go direct to the source. Dillian Whyte. So Dillian, he just moved a voicemail. Earlier on, I was speaking with his brother Dean as well. And they're under the impression that Povetkin just doesn't want the rematch. For whatever reason it may be. They don't think that he wants a rematch, that he keeps coming out with new inventive ideas to postpone the rematch. And I can understand Dillian's frustration, because you have to remember, Dillian, he's been in camp for a year, virtually non-stop, just thinking about Povetkin. He's probably sick of the name Povetkin right now. He's probably sick of thinking about Povetkin right now, because he's been spent a year just thinking about Povetkin. Go back to this time last year, he fought Marius Wach. After that fight, when he left Saudi Arabia, he quickly agreed to defend his interim world title against Alexander Povetkin as involuntary. And they agreed that quite quickly. So he went pretty much immediately into camp, maybe about a week or two apart. Here in the UK, he started off his camp. The virus and everything started to hit. He went, right, I'm out of here. When I was to Portugal, where he can have his own facilities, his own gym, all that kind of stuff. So he went over there, because the first fight was meant to have happened in May. Then obviously it couldn't happen because boxing wasn't allowed, or any kind of sports wasn't allowed around that kind of time, which is why the Canelo-Billy Joe Saunders fight fell apart in that as well. And then it was reset for June, then it was reset for July. Eventually it happened in August. But again, just for the first fight, he kept getting messed about with the date. Not Povetkin's fault, not Dillian Whyte's fault, nobody's fault. It just happened to be because of the whole pandemic situation. So he was being messed around up to the first fight anyway. By the way, this is not an excuse as to why he lost. At the end of the day, he beat the living hell out of Povetkin, didn't he? Then ultimately Povetkin landed that huge shot. This is boxing. More specific, this is heavyweight boxing. It happens, okay? So immediately after that fight, he says, right, I want a rematch. He spends a week or so with his mum and his kids and everything, goes back to Portugal, because the rematch is meant to be happening in November. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, well, that's a bit too soon. Maybe you shouldn't have it so soon because of, he got stopped and yada, yada, yada. I mean, first things first, Dillian, he would know whether or not he's going to be okay to have that rematch, because when he's sparring, he will know if he's feeling any kind of effects, okay? Quite clearly, he was okay. So he's all gearing up for a November fight. A couple of weeks beforehand, it comes out Povetkin had this COVID, gets put in hospital. Hey, it's a serious thing, okay? I have no idea if Povetkin really did have it or whether he didn't. Absolutely no idea whatsoever. But we have to go with what's face value and accept what it is. Okay, went to hospital. Best of health to him. Hope he fully recovers, gets back to full fitness, get the rematch on with Dillian Whyte. Everything was agreed with January the 30th. So, of course, Dillian Whyte, he's been preparing up to November. That gets pushed back again, so he then has to reset and then push up to January the 30th. Because again, anybody who watches and knows anything about boxing, boxers, they go through camp, then they structure it in such a way that they peak before fight night. About a week or so beforehand, that's when they peak, when they're at their optimum best. And that's how you structure your camp. So he's reaching to the point where he's going to peak, then he has to reset again. He's about to peak, has to reset again. So it's going to be totally frustrating for Dillian. Totally frustrating. And again, how serious is it with Povetkin? No idea. I'm led to believe it was pretty serious because he was in hospital, right? But how long does it take to get over this thing? I know a lot of people have lost their lives, so quite clearly it's a very, very serious thing, right? And hopefully they sort this thing out. But many people have got it and then within a week or two got over it. Peter Fury, Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn's dad, who's 70 years old as well. Povetkin, he's an athlete. His body is in supreme condition. So surely he should be able to kick it, no problem. Which by look at it, he has, but he's saying he's not going to be ready. I don't know. Is it a case of he doesn't want to go through the rematch because he thinks, well, if I don't land that punch or a big punch of similar effect, I'm going to be getting an absolute beating up until that point, because that's what happened in the first fight. And in the rematch with Dillian, far more angry, where he's going to be sitting down in these shots a whole lot more to try and get him out there himself so he can have his own highlight reel knockout of Povetkin. Povetkin could be thinking, nah, I don't want that. While I could land a very good shot again, of course I could. But I'm going to be taking a beating until that happens. Not really sure I want that. I'm going to enjoy Christmas and New Year. Maybe he thought that. Maybe. Or maybe this virus has really kicked his ass. I don't know. But let's talk of what Dillian Whyte's going to do next. Maybe he's going to keep the January 30th date. Again, let's backtrack a little bit. When the fight fell apart in November just gone, there was talk about maybe he could get in another opponent. But the reason that Dillian didn't get in another opponent, where he could have just got another payday, by the way, but he didn't. He said, no, I want the Povetkin rematch. I want him. The interim belt and all that kind of stuff, that's great. The money, yeah, cool. That's great. But revenge is more important to me. But he turned the fight down, or having a new opponent come in for November, because January 30th, not too long apart. So he thought, nah, I'm not going to do that. January 30th, cool. We'll get that rematch on. Not ideal, but we'll get it on then. Cool, no worries. Because Dillian, he's been going through the best part of a year in camp. It's good to keep ticking over. It's good to stay in condition and this, that and the other. But it's got to be frustrating because you're away from your family. You're away from his mum. He's away from his family, his kids and this, that and the other. I know he's got his dogs and that over there. Of course, he's got some of his friends and whatever over there in Portugal and that as well. But it's got to be frustrating. And thankfully, we are in an era, or a time even, where we do have social media, we do have WhatsApp and Skype. So, of course, they can always keep in contact. It's not really that much of a problem. But still, nothing like being there celebrating Christmas with your family, is there? Nothing like being around them, around birthdays and whatever else. Because a fighter, they have to fully concentrate on what it is that they're doing. It's a very dangerous sport that they're in. So, potential opponents, I know Eddie Hearn, he said earlier on, he mentioned the names of Deontay Wilder, Luis Ortiz, and Andy Ruiz Jr. All three of these guys have been offered fights by Dillian Whyte before, and all three of them have turned it down. Deontay Wilder turned down, and again, I know this for a fact, all the receipts, Wilder, he turned down $15 million to fight Dillian Whyte. Turn it down. Andy Ruiz Jr. was offered, what was it, 6 million, 7 million? Turned it down. Luis Ortiz was offered 2 million. Turned it down. So I'm not too sure why these guys will want to fight Dillian Whyte now, when there's no interim world title on the line. Or maybe, if Povetkin, if he's going to keep on postponing it, maybe the WBC go, right, okay, sorry, mate. Until you're fully recovered, we're going to take that interim world title off you. Dillian, go fight whoever it is that you're going to be fighting. The belt will be on the line. Povetkin, when you're fit and able, come see Dillian after, okay? But right now, here's the belt, Dillian, or at least on the line for Dillian, okay? So maybe that might work. We know Wilder, he did mention Dillian Whyte a little while ago. But the problem that we've got here is that all three of those fighters that Eddie Hearn mentioned are all PBC fighters. They don't like crossing the street. They don't like doing it. Could Dillian Whyte go fight on Fox Sport or Showtime? Yeah, of course, because Dillian, he's a free agent. His only contractual obligation is a one-fight deal with Matchroom Sky Sports. So the platform that must show it here in the UK is Sky Sports. With DAZN, Dillian Whyte can choose to have DAZN or not have DAZN. He can choose who is the US broadcaster. So it shouldn't be that much of a problem there, but you know what these guys are like over at the PBC. They always come up with excuses. It's what they do. It's what they do. Now, for me, who should he fight? Again, depends on when this proposed reset date with Povetkin is. If they're going to talk, say, maybe February, then he's probably better off just waiting for February and having that rematch with Povetkin. But again, does he continue with camp and then Povetkin makes more excuses and doesn't go through with the fight? What do? He's between a rock and a hard place, isn't he? What is it that you do? He could go fight somebody else. Who is he going to fight? Who? Because Dillian, he's a pay-per-view fighter. And he needs another fighter in there that people could look at and go, wow, that's a decent fight, that is. People may mention the name, say, Michael Hunter, for example. He's a very good fighter. And that'd be a very interesting fight. But people outside the hardcore fraternity don't know who Michael Hunter is. And again, I don't like using the word casual. Listen, maybe I'm a casual, I don't know. But it's the casuals who bump up the numbers on pay-per-view. It's a business. Are they going to pay for a Michael Hunter as a headliner? Probably not. Probably not. A rematch with Joseph Parker? Don't know. I mean, what's happening with Parker and Junior Farr? Don't know. So it's very difficult. Who is it that he fights? Maybe they can come to some kind of agreement with Joshua and Fury that maybe Usyk, maybe he fights Dillian Whyte. Why not? That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Dillian Whyte versus Alexander Usyk. So there are some fights out there, but getting them over the line is a totally different ballgame. I don't envy what Dillian has to go through as his own manager and what Eddie Hearn has to go through to get certain opponents over the line. It ain't the easiest thing in the world for him, especially during these uncertain times. But either way, that's what's going on. Dillian, he's under the impression that Povetkin is just messing him about, so is Dean. What the plan going forward is, quite unclear at the minute, but as soon as I find out, if I find out before anybody else, of course, I'll let you guys know. But yeah, anyway, that's what's going on. Right now, January 30th, Alexander Povetkin is not going to be ready. So yet again, it's reset for Dillian Whyte. I'll be a little bit annoyed about it, wouldn't you? Of course you would. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all in the next video.